Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to master the art and science of selling? Stick around. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, and as always, I'm here with your host, Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. Today, we have an excellent guest, but if you have not subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe now. Hit the alert button so you know when we go live every single dang time. Join us on Facebook at Tribe of Giants. There's a great community there. And yeah, we're doing another Sum Gigante group. So if you want to sign up for Sum Gigante, what is this? SG what?
SG5,
5.
fifth cohort.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. It goes
We actually have
fast.
some people that are repeating the course, which is pretty cool.
That's way awesome.
Yeah.
We're planning an event in June, middle of June. So watch for the details as we post that. And what else do we got, Nick? We
Well,
got a lot
just
of
if
stuff.
you haven't grabbed a copy of the book, go do that at giantsandsmalls.com. You'll see that at the bottom here. And outside of that, nothing. Just make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to make sure you get notified every time we go live, which is a lot. A
It is a
lot.
lot.
If you like notifications, we're the place for you.
And I
Yeah.
do my own stunts.
Yeah, I
So,
like it.
Nick, will you introduce our guest? I couldn't
I,
sleep last night.
I
I was so
will.
excited. It was like a little kid at Christmas. I'm like, I get to interview Eric.
That's kind of Christmas present you can have, right?
Yeah, that's
So
right.
Eric Lofholm has taught his proven sales system to thousands of professionals around the world. He's the president and CEO of Eric Lofholm International Inc., an organization he founded to professionally train people on the art and science of selling. So Eric began his career, and I love that you say this, Eric, as a sales failure. So at his first sales job, he was put on quota probation after failing to meet the minimum quota 2 months in a row. It was at this point that Eric met his sales mentor. After being professionally trained, Eric achieved his quota and eventually became the top producer at that company. So Eric went on to become the top producer at two more companies prior to starting Eric Lofholm International. He is naturally a gifted teacher, and for over 20 years, he's been sharing his proven sales, increasing ideas with people all over the world. He's written 15 books on sales and success. He lives in Rockland, California with his wife and 4 children, and he believes that selling equals service. He also believes in working towards mastery of the fundamentals of lead generation, appointment setting, and delivering a high quality presentation. He's delivered over 1,500 public and private presentations. That is a big accomplishment, Eric. Like, thank you. Thanks for being on our show.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here, and I love your show setup here, where we can all be on camera, and it's just a really fantastic setup. So I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to being with you guys today.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. Did you write that bio?
I did. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That was
He
a good
lived it.
bio.
The craziest part about it, it's real.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, I was on your website snooping. That's what I like to go on and snoop. You got great recommendations by Les Brown, Tom Hopkins, and some others. I mean, really cool stuff. So you've been doing this a long time. And I think for this topic, we're going to dive into sales, but we're going to do it from the viewpoint of Eric Lofholm, kind of your journey in developing what you created here. And I like to go back to the very beginning, the automation, the unconscious phase where you just dive into it. You do what you've always done. You maybe don't know the new way of doing it. Can you describe what that might have been like, or when you had an awakening moment around that?
Well, as far as my sales journey, I struggled in the beginning, and I just didn't know how to sell. And there's a lot of psychology to selling. Many of the listeners may be uncomfortable with sales, with prospecting, with asking for the order. And I fell right into that category. And after I was about to lose my job in sales, I met my sales mentor. I affectionately call him the Obi-Wan Kenobi of sales training. So I had an Obi-Wan, Luke Skywalker like experience in my early 20s. And I literally met a master, and he trained me, and my sales skyrocketed with his help, and I've never looked back. And so the epiphany for me early on was getting professionally trained. And there's a concept that you don't know what you don't know. And so when you don't know something, you have no access to it. And I did not know that I didn't know how to deliver an effective sales presentation. And so once I got trained, my whole world opened up and everything shifted for me.
Yeah. Did you have some judgments about yourself when you first started learning, when you first started developing your abilities here? Going back, especially to where you were put on probation, did you have some self-judgment come up inside of that?
Well, I was in fear. I was in fear.
Okay.
I was newly married at that time. And I didn't tell my wife that I was on quota probation because I was embarrassed. And the fear was so strong. It was like, maybe she would think she married the wrong person. This guy can't even keep a job.
Mm.
I hadn't even gone into imagining having to interact with her side of the family had I been fired. I was just like, cross my fingers, hope and pray somehow, some way I can hit my job, because it was really embarrassment that I was feeling. And I squeaked by and made quota by one sale that month. And it wasn't until years later that I ended up telling my wife that I was even in that situation.
Yeah.
So it was
It's a need to
very
know basis.
Me too.
I totally relate to that. Like, if it's like, well, I'm just going to kind of omit that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very real situation. And I definitely was feeling inadequate as a human being. At that point in my life, I had all kinds of judgments about myself. And so at that space in my life, it was a very challenging time for me mentally.
Yeah. Can we talk about that? I want to dive into that a little bit more, because I see in the journeys as people go through their process of waking up and really turning their lives around, there's a moment of almost like grief where they get into a depressive state or an anxious state. They start comparing themselves to others, or they look at their own ideals and they're not measuring up. And then they're really hard on themselves. Can you talk about how that can impact sales?
Well, in selling, it requires confidence. And so, you and I had a conversation, and I think it was that gentleman that I suggest you speak to, Nick, who's the film producer. And you ended up reaching out to him, right?
He actually came on the show.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so here's my point. To reach out to a person like him requires confidence. So if there's self-judgment, if there's lack of belief in yourself, then you don't go after that bigger account. You don't go after that bigger opportunity in the first place. And so the foundation of sales greatness is confidence. And the problem is, where do you go if you don't have it? And at that point in my life, I had no confidence. I had no belief in myself, or very little, and didn't know how to access it. And at one point in my life, I felt like there was the average and ordinary people, and then there was the successful people, except I was average and ordinary. And so I resonated with mediocrity. And that's what led me to work at McDonald's when I was in college. That ultimately led me to dropping out of college. Just those types of feelings. And it was a very, that was going up into my early 20s. So my whole life up in my early 20s, there was all these feelings like what you're describing. And then when I had Dr. Moyne help me, my sales mentor, and I had another mentor as well that helped me, and they started putting different thoughts in my mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
so it's this ongoing journey. Like it's this never ending onion you're peeling. And Les Brown, as I built a relationship with him, and Les on a one-on-one call, he says, "Eric, you're the chosen one." Well, I was very hard to receive that from, this is the great Les Brown, right? And so here he is pouring into me. And, but that's really one of the things that's made a big difference in my life, is people seeing me before I saw myself.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a level of rejection. So when you talk about Les Brown giving you a compliment, when you don't accept yourself and you're not okay with where you are because you have your ideals of where you think you should be, and you compare or whatever it is, there's this feeling, like you said, there's no confidence in you because you're not acceptable inside of you. So when somebody says something like that, it's not received. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Or
I had that exact experience with my
Yeah.
first mentor. His name is Dante Perano, and he's a multimillionaire real estate investor. And I worked for him. And he looked at me one day and he goes, Eric, one day you are going to be a great salesperson. And when he said that, here's where my brain went. There must be some Eric behind me because he's not talking to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm his bottom guy. What is he? This guy's, that's not me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, he saw something in me, even though I was the bottom guy in terms of the numbers on the board. I actually was leading the team in number of sales. They were just little baby sales. So all these little baby sales added up to me being the bottom producer. But I was doing double, triple, quadruple the number of sales. So he saw that. And he's like, if Eric ever got his confidence and if he raised average dollar, shoot, he'll blow by these other guys. But I didn't see that. I just saw bottom guy. I'm not successful. And so then there was pieces of it that I couldn't see in myself, and that's what he saw in me.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on this too. Like, you wouldn't be able to name specifically when it shifted because it was a building up of information and affirmation and content going in that eventually evolved into Eric Lofholm as you are today, right?
Yeah, and even to this day, it's not like I'm a finished product, right? I still almost, I'm not gonna say daily, but I'm still having realizations with some frequency. It's like different levels of understanding and different levels of like allowing myself to accept my greatness, accept what the value is that I bring to the world. And it's just kind of like never ending. At least that's what it's been for me at this point.
Well, you hit on a word there, acceptance. And what does that mean for you to accept that this is where you are, or however you use that phrase? What is acceptance to you?
I think it's just like coming to this realization, like I am that good, or I can create that much value, or I can make that big of a difference.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had a conversation with a CEO recently, and he has about 400 employees. And I said to him, I'm going to come in and I'm going to uplift all 400 of your employees. And I had never said that to a CEO before. And so it was like me getting to a place of acceptance that I actually had the ability to uplift a company. And I never had thought of myself like that before. So that was like an example of acceptance.
Yeah. Instead of downgrading your life or your abilities, you're actually, it's stepping into the belief almost. The idea, I can do this. I have everything I need to do this.
And one thing I've struggled with, and I still work on this, guys, is the price I charge. So I've always been on the lower price side. Now, having said that, I've generated millions and millions of dollars in my company. Yeah. So it's not that I haven't generated significant amount of revenue, but I know I've charged less than what I could have, and that I still work on that, you know. And so it's it's just an interesting thing that
I had read. I was just not reading. I was audibling on 2-Speed, The Ultimate Coach, Book of Being, and Steve Hardison, and they were talking about Steve Chandler and not charging what he was worth. And he went into a corporation and they had a whole bunch of employees, and he started to go into his old sales pitch and his old routine about $1,000-something, you know, and he would come in and he ends up losing money to go in and sell these companies. And Steve Hardison stopped him and said, yeah, per person type of a deal.
Right.
And they said, oh, that sounds like a bargain. And they signed, you know, Steve Chandler got the gig for $1,000-something per person. And it was like a $400,000 contract instead of a $1,000 contract. And so but I relate to all of what you're saying, because we get in sales slumps. You can lose your confidence. You know, like as a salesperson already, like in my field, you have a bad day or a bad, you have customers come in and you can't get to them like you thought you would get to them. As a human, it's very easy to go into your head and start, well, man, you're terrible at this, and breaking down your process. But if you can stick around people that believe in you, like a Steve Hardison, like an Eric Lofholm, like a Les Brown, or anybody that sees your greatness and can see the giant inside of you, you can start to transform that shift. And we probably all undervalue what we really have to give the world.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, along that line there, the idea of, valuing yourself, I could see the journey with pricing is we go into an unconscious state around that, and there's an awakening around that. Why didn't I charge more? And some judgment that might come up, and some guilt and shame and depression or whatever might come up around that. And then you get into the space of, yeah, I did that. That's okay. I did that. And I'm committed to creating it a little differently. So it's almost the same practicing that you went through to learn how to be a salesman. Now it's just a different topic. Now you might feel small in this new area around pricing, but it's the same journey or a similar journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think about the journey as like lifting weights.
Okay.
Right? So if I want to grow my muscles, I got to go in the gym and lift the weights. And there's no way to get my muscles stronger, or I got to get on the treadmill to lower my body fat. And if I don't do the work, then I'm not going to get the result. And so, part of what we're talking about here is on this journey is putting the work in, whether it's reading books or listening to podcasts like what we're doing here, or going to seminars, working with a coach. And it's just taking like what you're talking about and pricing and saying, okay, Eric, now put in the work, go lift the weights on pricing. What is the mindset? What do the actions need to be? How do you need to show up differently? And I've been putting the work in since 1988, and I'll continue to put the work in, and I, get results where I put the work in. And I'm a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
My most recent book is called Continuous Sales Improvement. And it's a philosophy of what this conversation, just ongoingly, Eric, work on your skills and teach others. Encourage them to ongoingly work on their skills. So instead of my company has a 2-week training course on sales, and then I'm done training. No, great. Your company had a 2-week training, and then you keep working on it. It's a part of being a professional salesperson or a professional business person to work on our skills. So I resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, we truly have limitless capacity for learning if we'll use it. The brain's not limited. It's just we might have a belief that says that we're limited and live into that, but it's not because of any capacity. It's our brain has the ability to do that. Our bodies can adapt to things, but we might tell ourselves that that's not the case and then live into that story. And so here's what I'd wonder, when you get into a slump or you're feeling down and you're not feeling confident, what are some of the tools you use to get back into alignment with Eric Lofholm, the way you're creating him?
Yeah. So now at this stage of my career, I don't really get in slumps anymore. And I don't really deal with confidence issues anymore. Part of it is just where I've evolved to. But as far as a technique, I have a morning routine. And it's a 4 to 12 minute routine. And it has to do with my inputs. What am I putting into my mind? Because if you think about like lack of confidence, sales slump, it's kind of like a spiral downward. And now all of a sudden I have these negative thoughts because I've had several setbacks in a row that have me thinking like that. And so if we're thinking positive, so on my morning routine, it's my written goals that I'm currently working on. I have a thing I call the resume exercise where I've written down my life's accomplishments, and I just review that for 1 to 3 minutes, 1 to 3 minutes on my goals, 1 to 3 minutes on my declarations, my I am statements. And then I do mirror work. I do 1 to 3 minutes, and I'll like look in the mirror or make my smartphone on selfie mode. So I just say, I love you, or I love you, Eric. And I make eye contact with myself. And the reason why I do that is because my experience is most people receive I love you 0 to 5 times a month. I'm doing it for myself 15 to 20 times a day. And my mindset is I'm feeding my soul by loving myself. And so I teach that to people, and some people embrace that, and some people, they're so uncomfortable with loving themselves, they have a really hard time doing it, or they might not even do it at all. So that little morning routine is something that really helps me with my confidence.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so it is something that for anybody watching this, it's possible you can break through lack of confidence or, quote unquote sales slump, and have a different way of looking at it.
Yeah. I can see the power in that, like creating yourself before you do the creating. I know there's some research that talks about explorers when they go out into exploring the world, they'll establish themselves with rituals and routines. They all have rituals and routines that they step into so that they can handle the unknown.
Yeah.
And then that carries them through the unknown. And so do you find that to be true for you, that ritual and that routine is what holds your confidence through any situation?
It helps, but I'll tell you what really makes the difference.
Okay.
It's how I process rejection. And so this is one of the biggest issues for people that sell. Traditional salespeople are business owners that need to put on their sales hat. So I'll ask them, do you need to do more prospecting? And they go, yes. And I say, okay, well, what's the number one reason why people don't do more prospecting? Right? Like you reached out to Nick, that's prospecting, right? But most people, when they have the opportunity to reach out to somebody, what holds them back if they don't do it is the most common answer: fear of rejection. And so I rewired my brain, and it's real simple. It goes like this. When I prospect, I win. When I book the appointment, I double win. I win no matter what. So if I'm prospecting Nick and I reach out to him, just to reach out is a win. If he doesn't respond, I still won. If he responds and I book the appointment, I double win. Now you reached out, you booked the appointment, and then you closed it because he came on the show.
Yeah.
So all day long, I'm winning or double winning. I'm not absorbing all this negative energy of the quote unquote rejection where other people are constantly being rejected. I'm going through the same experience, but I'm not framing it as that. And so I've set my life up in a way where I'm succeeding all day long when in other people's minds, they're failing, they're being rejected. And that creates a completely different reality for me. And I can boldly prospect virtually anybody with no fear of rejection.
I like that. We talked to Ivan Meisner. What was it? Thursday? Ivan Meisner. He's the founder of BNI, and he talks about failure being the tuition of success. And you don't see it as even a failure. You just see it as a win or a double win. And so going into this, like I want to hit on the bodily meaning of the pat on the back or shoulder or whatever that means for you.
Yeah.
And then also this, what does that mean for you as you do those movements?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You start listening to people and you can hear what's going on in their belief system. So people say this all the time. I am my harshest critic, as a declaration. So they're declaring that that's who they are. So then it's showing up all day long in different ways, and they're being hard on themselves.
Nobody even has a chance, right? Nobody else has a chance to even be hard on them because they're the hardest.
And in addition, think about what it does for their confidence.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm constantly being negative to myself. So here's what I learned. I learned the declaration. I am my number one cheerleader. Well, if I'm being my number one cheerleader, I'm not going to be hard on myself. So I pretty much, I'm not going to say it's 100%, but I've eliminated the majority of the negative self-talk in my life out of the declaration. I am my number one cheerleader. And this is a form when I'm physically patting myself on the back, because that's like what your coach might do in sports, or your dad might do, give you a pat on the back. And so I'm giving myself the pat on the back. And so that's a way of, it's a physical way of me being my number one cheerleader. Now, when I'm doing this, that's like an arrow or a punch coming at me. And so what's happening, my experience of people is that they're saying, well, I am my harshest critic and I screwed up again and I did this thing wrong. And so they're like literally receiving these blows, but they're energetic blows. They're not physical blows, right? Yeah. So I'm not receiving those because I don't look at it in that way. Now, I wasn't born that way, right? So when I was born, I didn't, the way I was raised in the environment I was in, I didn't have a a Les Brown-like father. Okay?
Yeah.
So I grew up in a home where I wasn't receiving that kind of encouragement. And I was doing some pretty amazing things as a kid. Like, I'll just tell you one brief thing. I had a baseball card business in high school, and I was flush with cash all the time, and I wanted to go see the World Series. So my dad didn't take me to the World Series. I took myself with my own money. Like, what 16, 17-year-old kid is buying World Series tickets with his own money? Like,
amazing.
Very few.
Yeah.
And I get all excited just telling you about it right now, because that was an extraordinary thing that I did. Started this company, and I created this baseball card business out of my mind, and then I manifest it, and then I'm at the World Series baseball game. So, but I didn't look at that as extraordinary. I just thought, oh, that's just something I do. Like, it's no big deal. It's a freaking big deal.
Yeah.
Right? And now at 51, I can recognize a young version of me as the extraordinary things I was doing as a kid that I didn't see as extraordinary at the time. And so now I have and I've created miracles like that many times in my life. And then I'll tell you one other brief thing that happened. There was a fire. We were talking about fires before, California fires. There was a fire that burned down the town of Paradise. It was world news, called the Camp Fire. And 50,000 people became displaced or homeless overnight. And so my wife and I started a Facebook group called Paradise Fire Adopt a Family, with the goal of helping 10 families. The group went viral. 34,000 people joined the group. It was the most active Facebook group for the campfire. We literally brought over $1 million in real value to that community, and we uplifted the entire region.
Yeah.
We don't have time to go into all the miracles that happened from that experience, but it was like, that gave me a glimpse of the kind of power that I have. It's like, wow, I had an idea, the thing went viral, and FEMA, the government agency, FEMA recognized us. I'm not trying to go into that story, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
We were in the FEMA building. That was where they set up shop with all the Red Crosses in there and Salvation Army, and Paradise Fire Adopt a Family had a booth in the FEMA building. We were not an organization. We were a Facebook group. So when we walked in, they wanted to see our credentials. They wanted to see our credentials, which I explained to the Butte County, the government agency, the government running.
You're like, here's my resume.
They asked us for our I called up Butte County, whoever's in charge, and I said, listen, we're a Facebook group. We don't have any credentials. She said, go down and make up a badge like on a computer, like make it look like you're official. The county told us that because we weren't an organization. And all these miracles were happening. And it's it gave me a glimpse, like, Eric, this is how powerful you are. And I had like never experienced that kind of power before. And so the thing for me, like what I'm working on myself right now, is that was for a fire. Okay. Yeah. In my business, it's my name on the building. And I'm making a distinction in my own mind of, it's one thing for me, it's another thing for a company. It's a self-worth thing, right? Like being like learning how to make no distinction between whether I'm helping a company or I'm helping myself, through my own business. And so that's like my own journey right now to step into.
I hear inside of it some social aspects, right? There are a lot of things that happen that we hold ourselves back because we think we know what other people are thinking, and then we judge ourselves, or we don't move by what we think others are thinking. I'm going to give an example here, and maybe you can help me tie this in. Yeah. There was a research study done with monkeys where they put a banana on top of a ladder, and every time a monkey would climb up, the researchers would spray the other monkeys with cold water, ice cold water. And so they started beating up the monkey so it wouldn't climb the ladder because they didn't want to get punished, right? Yeah. Well, eventually they would take one monkey out and bring another one in and put it in there. And as it would climb the ladder, there was no more cold water. The monkeys would just grab it and beat it because they thought something bad would happen. Eventually they replaced all the monkeys, and they just did this as a tradition with no other reason than that's just what we do. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of times we have these beliefs or limiting systems going on of, I can't do this because I don't have the credentials, or somebody maybe said that to us. Who are you to do this? You don't have the credentials. So we hold ourselves back, and then we hold others back almost in the same way, just because that's what we do. Can you see that playing out somewhere in either in your life or in others' lives as you've been coaching and training?
I think that for me, I don't know if this is answering your question exactly,
Yeah,
but
yeah. We'll do our
we're all
best.
tied together through the Ultimate Coach Facebook group.
Yeah.
And so when I'm leading that group, it's not my name on the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Steve's name on the door, right? So I can like fully step into my power.
Okay.
But am I fully stepping into my own power with my own company, right? And that's my learning right now and maybe it is something about some type of judgment or what are other people thinking or what I don't know how to self-diagnose that.
I hear your accomplishments, and there's a lot of times there's this holding back of talking about our accomplishments because what might others think? Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's a metaphorical ladder. It's like, I don't talk about my accomplishments because I don't want to create any upset out here. And here you go through and you do this amazing thing, right? You've done this incredible thing. And this is the first I've heard about it, right? But I look at the Facebook group, the Ultimate Coach Facebook group, and what you've created there too. Same thing. But I think for us to go out and tell, I can do this. I've created this. This is how powerful I am. There's almost this social disconnect of we don't do that here in this society, right?
Yeah, I definitely can resonate with that. The way our culture is, we live in a culture of downplaying. At least that's my experience of it.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where in my experience, being seen by somebody else, being seen by a Les Brown or Dr. Moyne or Steve Hardison or Dante Pirano has really been helpful for me, because when they've seen something in me, it's like, I don't know, maybe it gives me permission to see it. Something happens there when someone else that I respect is seeing something inside of me. And I love doing that for people. I was coaching a woman yesterday, and I was telling her, she's a coach, and I was creating her as, you're going to coach women business owners that do $1 million a year or more, and you're going to charge $25,000 a client, and you're going to have 10 of them. So you're going to have $250,000. And this woman's that good. But as I was creating that for her, like, she was seeing the possibility, but I could also feel her resistance. Like, who am I to charge $25,000?
Yeah. What a question. Coaching? Yeah.
Right. But she is that good.
Yeah.
And I can see that in her because of the time I spend with her. And so I really enjoy that when I can, as my mentors have seen things in me, and I can see things in them and open up possibilities of things that they had never even considered before.
Yeah.
Like people that are uncomfortable in selling, and I help them see my core belief system is selling equals service. So we can go and show up powerfully with our sales hat on because we're there to serve.
Yeah.
And that mindset is a very, I love teaching that to people and getting them to realize, it's not about me and it's not about my commission. It's about serving this other person through my product or service that I'm offering. And so it's, lighting people up with those types of possibilities.
I see you as somebody that has a lot of vision, either for yourself or others, is you create the belief in yourself. So you have this vision, I can do that. There was some research done on vision that when you have a clear vision, and Dr. Meisner on that show, that was awesome. He just talked about thinking. You just think yourself there, and you can see yourself doing that or imagine yourself doing that, however you do that. Then it creates this space of hope and belief that I can actually do that, which gets you acting into it. So when you have a conversation with this woman and you're saying, look, you're going to do this at $25,000 a year and 10 people, that's $250,000 a year. You can do this. You're instilling in that belief system within her where she can take that on and now start to act into it, because now this is possible. I think if we start to think, I can't do that, why would we put energy into it?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I call what you're saying, I just label that clear path.
Yeah.
If I have a clear path to get somewhere, right, that's going to give me the confidence to step into that. And with the Facebook group, the Ultimate Coach Facebook group, like the day I declared it, in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is a 20-year run. And now I've been speaking that. And I saw that, like, it was just in the moment. I didn't have to spend an hour thinking about it. I'm like, this is what this is going to be. And I'm like, okay, I'm willing to take that on. And vision is just something that just comes natural to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I was able to speak to this woman in this coaching session yesterday. It wasn't like, okay, let's go charge 25 grand right now, although she probably could do that. Right. It was, let's work towards that. And if you put in the work and, you know, let's build your business infrastructure and let's work, and you could absolutely get there. And so it's, it is interesting when we can see, and you guys have that. I picked this up right away when I connected with you guys. You guys have vision. I mean, this show is vision, right?
Yeah.
Putting all this work in because you see down the road, it's the impact we're having now, and then the impact we're going to continue to have. You know, as you're out door knocking and like, where did you go? At like Disney animators, and like that requires vision. Like, who's going to go door knock? The person that sees it as this is a possibility, even though it's a high probability of a no, it's possible.
Yeah.
And it was vision that was driving that. And you're going to, you know, you guys are going to you've already broken through, but you're going to break through at even higher levels because of the consistent action that you take.
Well, part of it too is we're blissfully ignorant. You talk about a guy named Nick Manton, and in your world, you're like, this is a big deal. And in my world, I'm like, who the hell is Nick Manton? I'll call this guy.
Yeah. Turns out he is a big deal.
He is a big deal. He was a cool cat.
Yeah.
So seeing the path in advance. So you talk about the Clear Path. My first company was called Clear Path Training.
And, oh my goodness.
And
wow.
It's still, you can go, the website's still up and everything. But what I learned is that I don't always have a clear path. I have a clear vision, but the pathway is often very, very unclear. I like to use the analogy of a tree, the bifurcation, the branching of a tree, the fractal nature of a tree. And so when you look at a path, can you speak to that a little bit? Do you surrender the path? Do you really try and control the path? Like, what is your version of it? How do you create?
I'm really into simplicity.
Okay.
And so here's how I created my sales training company. At age 28, I'm 51 now. At 28, I say, I'm going to go become the Zig Ziglar of my generation as a declaration, not knowing what a declaration was.
Okay.
So I started living into that declaration, and I said, all right, I'm going to build an international sales training company. And so I thought, all right, if I'm going to do that, what is the path? And here's how simple I made it. All I have to do is give one speech a day, 5 days a week, to a sales team or a business group. It could be just the local car dealership or the local real estate office, or it could be 1,000-person conference over in Malaysia, which I did one time, or it could be a whatever, right? Just give one speech a day, 5 days a week. And if you do that, Eric, for the next 40 years, you're going to build an international training company. So that's what pretty much I've done. I've averaged about a speech, like I'm doing a speech right now with you guys. I'd call this a speech, right? So I pretty much do about one of these a day, been doing it for 23 years. And then I built an international training company. So I look for...
It's easy. All you do is one simple step for 23 years every day, and it's easy.
Easy.
Because I looked at it like this. That's doable.
Yeah.
Right. When I was 28, nobody's heard of me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could go speak at the local car dealership, and I could go speak to Rotary. And at 28, even though nobody's heard of me and my product line's ineffective and I got a crummy website, it doesn't matter. I could just do that. And I thought, if I keep doing that, I'm just going to keep getting better.
I was thinking about being a rock star at like nursing homes. They listen. They probably wouldn't talk back.
So when I'm looking at things, and I'm looking at like, the Bing movement, and all that's happening in my involvement with that, I'm just looking at that kind of. If I just each day I just do a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and then that's gonna that's gonna take off and go viral. And it's not gonna go viral because of me. I'm a piece to a bigger vision. It's Steve's vision. It's not my vision. It's Steve's vision. Yeah. I'm a piece fitting in with his vision. And so I just look for simplicity, and somehow it just comes clear to me. So that's what I'm looking for. And when I'm coaching, like with this woman yesterday I was coaching, that's what I was seeing for her was how do we, in a simple way, get to that result? When she came to me yesterday, she had like 8 different pieces that did not connect together. And she wasn't having a success. And it's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 3 pieces, not 8. And we're going to make it really, really simple. And so I simplified the whole thing down and I said, okay, let's just do this. And if you do this, then you're going to get the results you want, because she had a certain income target. It's like a big puzzle, right? It all fits together, but her brain wasn't thinking like that. And so she's just month after month after month, not getting the results she wanted, but didn't really have a chance to get the results she wanted because it was all fragmented.
Yeah. Okay. So you fine tune. It's almost like I use an example of slime mold, just really nasty looking stuff. But what they did, researchers took and put oats on a map, kind of like the Tokyo subway system. They put the train stations on there and they put slime mold on there to go after the oats, and it spread out in every direction, just everywhere. And then it narrowed down the path to really specific pathways that were in line with or better than what they had designed as the Tokyo subway system. And so it was an energetic flow because it put energy all out here like she was doing. And it feels like there's no movement. But then you start to see the pathways. Like you say, there's one simple thing you can do. There's 3 simple things you can do. And then you just wash, rinse, and repeat.
Did you just call Eric Lofholm slime mold?
Yeah, no. Eric Lofholm, sales like slime mold.
That's what a good coach can do, though, is that her mind was just all over. She's got great things, but then a coach like Eric, who has the experience, can then take that person and go, okay, we're going to get rid of this. We're going to simplify that. We're going to do this. And they can see it from a different perspective. That's why football coaches are great and basketball coaches are great. They might not be the Michael Jordan of the game where they were in their day, but they can look at it from a whole different perspective and they can apply all of their experience.
And here's a simple practical thing. And I did this with her yesterday. I said, let's look at this in a 10-year chunk. And so something I learned from Tony Robbins, I actually worked back in the day before I started my company. I was employed by Tony for 3 years. And so somebody asked Tony, I got my goal set for the next year. How far out, Tony, do you set your goals? And Tony said, I set my goals in decades. And I never forgot that. And so anybody can look out in the future, depending on their age, 10, 20, 30 years in the future, like Steve Hardison Project, I'm looking 20 years into the future. But it never dawns on most people to think in decades. They're so focused on, now to the next 12 months. Mm-hmm. And when you look at it at a 10-year piece or a 20-year piece or a 30-year piece, in my sales training company, I could see 40 years out. So I have this app on my phone. It's called it's called Final Countdown. This is the app here, and it's a count up or countdown date app. So I have a date in here, and it's September 12th, 2046. And that's this one right here. So I have 8,886 days, 10 hours, 16 minutes, 38 seconds, 37 seconds, 36. This is how much time I have predicted left in my business. I have 24.2 years left. So it allows me to think in this case, in a 24.2 year chunk.
Yeah. Wow.
Most people don't think like that, but anybody could.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Anybody could. And so just like your finances, if you look at your financial picture like that and work with a financial advisor, kind of almost anybody can become a millionaire if they looked at money and time like that. But most people don't. So they never start investing in the first place. And then they get to the end of their life and they're broke because they had no vision to build wealth. And so the takeaway for anybody watching us right now is just to allow yourself to think 10 years, 20 years, 30 years out, depending on your age. It doesn't cost anything to think that far out. Your brain will see certain things it's never seen before. And so that's something in a coaching call I'll do with somebody, and anybody could have that experience with that. You don't have to coach with me. You can have the experience yourself. Just look at your goal in these extended timeframes and you'll see possibilities.
Well, I look at the growth of the Ultimate Coach Facebook group, right? The idea that it took off as quickly as it did, it doesn't honor the fact that this has been going on since about 1984, right?
Yep.
Like that growth underneath where you wouldn't have even seen this. You wouldn't have even known about a guy named Steve Hardison or a book or anything else at that point for years and years and decades. And I met Steve back in 2009, right? And he was still growing it then. And he's one of those that just, I don't need the recognition. I don't want my name on things back then. And then all of a sudden there's this massive growth, kind of like bamboo would do. You know, it's like there's nothing, and then rapid growth. And that's what I see, is that people don't often see all the legwork that went into creating the root system for what's coming up next. Like,
yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
well, if you look at what I did with the Fire Facebook group, okay, I was under fire with that group, because when you have a 34,000 person group, you got some people that are doing some stuff they shouldn't be doing. And so you take them out of the group. Well, now you just create an enemy. So if I remove somebody from the group where I had an admin team, maybe my admin takes the person out. I didn't take him out, but my name's the face of the Facebook group, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So now the arrows are coming at me, and I got viciously attacked on social media. There was a meme that was floating around that said this: the district attorney of Butte County, put the phone number, is looking for evidence against Eric Lofholm. So now all these haters, they're all this conspiracy theories and all, and I'm on the receiving end of something I've never been. And here I am, I'm just trying to help these people. I'm not being paid for it. I'm donating my time, doing what I think God wants me to do. I'm uplifting the entire region. And yet I'm on the receiving end of something I've never been on the receiving end of. So as I'm going through that, in my mind, I'm going, okay, this sucks. And God's preparing me for something greater. I don't know what it is. Okay, so then when the Steve Hardison Facebook group project comes along, I'm like, oh, this is a piece of cake. I already did this. And I was feeling like what the quote unquote problems that occur in the Steve Hardison Facebook are nothing. Nothing. Like I do that in my sleep. And so, but I'm grateful for.
So if I throw up a meme in there, the district attorney, just to mess with Eric.
What I dealt with, prepared to your point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when people see what I'm doing in the current Facebook group, they don't understand. This is like the 25th Facebook group that I've led.
That, right?
They don't know that. No, we've never talked about my history with it. This is the first time I'm really sharing some of these things. So I'm bringing all that experience. So when I say to Steve, hey, I want to start a Facebook group, and he just says, okay, go for it. Steve didn't even know that. He didn't know my skill level. Like I'm like the greatest Facebook leader on planet Earth for a personal development Facebook group that exists. Steve didn't know that. His intuition knew it, but we never had that conversation. So all the stuff that was happening and continues to happen is not random, and it's not luck. I've got Steph Curry like shooting the basketball reps in over decades.
Yeah.
To lead the group in the way that it's being led, to create the results that are being created, because most groups don't. After the initial flow of a group, it kind of dies off, and the engagement's still really strong. And it's going to go, that group's going to go to 60,000 members. And it wouldn't surprise me if it went into the hundreds of thousands over time. It's not going to be right away, but
well, that's the bigger vision, right? The decade-long vision. That's what helps with that.
Yeah, because here's how I think about it. I don't think we're anywhere close to 1 million books sold at this point. Well, what's going to happen when we're at 1 million books sold? And what I haven't shared with anybody, but there's a woman named Lisa who's a master of the customer journey. And I just added Lisa on to our leadership team. So here's what Lisa's doing in her brain. She's looking at all the online assets, the Instagram, the Facebook, the YouTube channel, and she's mapping out a brilliant customer journey. So when we unleash that thing,
unreal.
like we spiked, and now we're kind of on a plateau but it's going to spike again. Yeah. And what I see, I see the Bing movement going viral. And so it's kind of a wild
That's cool. Yeah. You know, what's interesting is the plateau, because we had massive growth in our group and then a plateau. And it's not like you plateau and then drop off. You maintain like a plateau. There's this flat line where it's consistently that for a long period. Yeah. And then there's an opportunity if we could see it, right, for another spout of massive growth. But a lot of it comes back to the bigger vision. Is like, what is the vision of all this? You've got a clear vision of 60,000 people, 100,000 people, million books sold. So that helps you anchor in over a period, over time, right? Not next week, which I think where we get hung up is I need to sell a million books by next week or next year, right?
Well, it's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
The three of us being on this right now, it's not like a million people are going to watch this show, right? How many are going to watch the show? Are going to watch the show, but it's like, why are we all here?
Yeah.
Right. We're here because we know if we put these reps in, that it's going to continue to grow the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how I very much resonate with tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady wins the race. I love it when I get a spike, right? But a lot of times we're on the plateau.
Yep.
And it's actually a pattern talked about in a book called Mastery by George Leonard. George Leonard says you spike and then you plateau. And then he says, endure the plateau in the pursuit of mastery. So you're on the plateau and then you spike again and then you plateau again. And you spike again and you plateau again. And a lot of people think when they're on the plateau, they think it's not working. When it's working.
Yeah. 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 And they quit. And then it only loses energy when you step away from it, when you quit, when you give up. Because our attention is powerful. It's what feeds things. It's like the sun on a garden, right? The sun never stops shining. There might be cloudy days, but it continues to shine regardless.
Yeah.
And over time, that matters, creates abundance. And so with our vision, same thing. Our attention is what grows things. We all have time, 18,000 minutes, right? 18,400 minutes a day, something like that. It's a ridiculous amount. We all have that. But attention is what gets missed, is what we give our attention to is going to grow. And what I love about your attention, Eric, is that you're out there looking with this broader vision of all of the pieces that could support and serve that.
Yeah.
So you're not narrowed in on one pathway that's going to get you there. You're not so straight lined that this is the only way it's going to happen, which would cause people to fall off because they just don't align with that. You're looking at, where's Lisa at? I don't even know Lisa. I don't know anything about Lisa, but I need a Lisa in my organization for this to work. That's what having a broader vision does. That's what I see inside of that, is it allows you to see that.
And what's nice is that Steve's way of being is that he's okay with me being in the spotlight. Because I get a lot of spotlight leading the group. Yeah. And my way of being, I'm okay with Lisa being in the spotlight, or Sarah or an Ayub who run the Instagram, or Cordelia who runs the LinkedIn. Our way of being is not, I got to have the spotlight. It's like, okay, I like it when I get it, but I'm happy to share it and encourage others. And so that creates a really extraordinary possibility, because the vision's so large, a lot of people can be in the spotlight.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And that motivates them to want to be their genius. And so like the team that's forming right now, I mean, I would put our team up against, whoever the biggest companies are in personal development.
Yeah.
And it's just all come together that people want to support this vision. So it's going to be exciting to see, with Lisa, with the customer journey, like she's elite. A lot of companies don't have somebody at her level on the customer journey. And it's just, it's incredible to see what's going to happen.
That's really cool. The pieces do come together. I would wonder, Eric, as a legacy, as you look at all of this, for Eric Lofholm, not speaking of Steve Hardison or anybody else, right? For you, what is the legacy you want to leave for the world?
It really is about, I guess I'll say it like this. My life, and I'm sure you guys agree with this from your perspective as well. My life's changed as I've worked on my personal development, and I've learned how to have a great marriage. And I've learned how to get along with my kids, and I've learned all these things. And there's some of it, I was born with, but a lot of it I had to learn into it. And I just love sharing that with people. And so I think what I want to be known for is somebody who was a great teacher that focused on serving and helped a lot of people. And, I record a lot of my content. So, like the greats before me, the Napoleon Hills and the Jim Rohns, there's a lot of content that's out in the world that we can still learn from them. So if people want to learn from me when I'm gone, that the assets are there and they
Yeah.
can. I don't really think so much though, like when I'm dead and gone. I mean, at that point I'm dead and gone. Like,
Yeah.
but while I'm here, I love just living my life in a way where I get to teach and
Yeah.
I get to
Yeah.
share possibility with people and shift, what they can experience.
Can we play?
That's what I love doing.
Yeah, I want to play with this a little bit. The idea of teaching, right? The word master comes from maestro, which means teacher. So when you become a master, you're essentially becoming a teacher. You know a topic so well that you can teach it to others. The word coach, right, comes from something that is carried, like you carry something through. And I love the idea of being a teacher over a coach personally, because I love to teach people, inspire, and light a flame in them so that they can now just go carry that through their life. They might inspire somebody else. Whereas a coach, I would feel like I need to like put you on my back, put you in my buggy, so to speak, and then like let you can only function because you're with me. I don't know. That's a version of it. I might create some offense by saying that, but I love the idea of being a teacher because now it puts the ownership back over into the other person where it belongs, where they're carrying themselves. They're lighting the fire for themselves and then for others. Does that make sense?
I actually really like that. And I never thought of it like that before, but I'm going to give some thought to what you said as far as how I'm communicating with other people around what I do, because I do like that. And for me, I've learned principles from these other, extraordinary teachers, taking the principles, applying them in my life, create the results. And so teaching, that idea of teaching really resonates with me.
Yeah. I look at all the masters throughout history, and they were all from that word maestro in Latin, teachers. They're teachers, right? And so that's something that really lands for me as well. When I think of speaking or training or coaching, is the idea of what am I teaching? What is it that I know well enough that I could share that with somebody else?
Yeah.
And it's different for everybody. There's some things like when it comes to sales, I'm pretty good at sales, but I'm no Eric Lofholm, right?
Yeah.
So I would want to be taught by an Eric Lofholm. That's why I would want to read your books, because you're teaching me what you know. And that's what's powerful, Ryan, what do you think as you hear that?
Go. Well, when I think of Eric Lofholm and the legacy he's leaving, like it's easy because to me it's his being, and that shifts, as you gain more experience and more knowledge and move down the road. Um, but it's easy for me to see that Eric is a maestro. He is a teacher. He is leaving that legacy. He's paving that as he's going, where I see it. He
Yeah.
hops into the Facebook group, throws out challenges, and doesn't just throw them out. Then he does them, and he shows people like, look, this is me doing the work as well, and you can do this. He sees their greatness a lot of times before they even see the spark of greatness, and then helps them through that. That's how I experience Eric Lofholm. Is just you are a giant, you are a powerhouse because you've built yourself into that, and then you're not just doing that for you, because that's not fun. It's fun for a minute, but then you're turning around and lifting others and giving a spark to other people. For me, the coolest part of that journey is when they catch it for themselves. When they finally go, it's like we were talking with Amy, and that moment she caught it for herself, um, everything shifts, because now it's like the bird that's in the nest, that the mama bird, has been telling it and saying, I believe you can fly, you can do this, you can do this, and all of a sudden, they take off and fly.
Yeah.
That is the coolest feeling, hands down, on planet Earth, when somebody can do it for themselves and start creating and living into their giant potential. And Eric, that's how I view you. Like, that's how I see you, as you're breathing in life and spark and hope and encouragement to other people, and passing down all of the tools and all of the lessons that Eric Lofholm's learned, so that others can fly. It's pretty rad.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ryan, you hit on something there too of doing it now. A legacy. I had to pull it up real quick because I love words, and so I pulled up the word. It means to legate, like the word delegate. The legacy is to hand over to another, to be an ambassador and a messenger. And if I think about the legacy that you're leaving, you're not waiting until you're gone. You're delegating right now. You're sharing that message right now. You're legating it, which is pretty awesome. So that is a legacy. You're already living your legacy. It's not like I'm going to become that. I already am that, which is pretty powerful. Yeah. Eric, you good for another minute or two?
Sure.
Yeah. Just one more quick question. We always ask this to everybody. If you were to go back in time and you're able to share a piece of wisdom with yourself before you started this journey, what piece of wisdom would you share with yourself, and maybe go into why?
I think the message that I would deliver my younger self, just like probably any entrepreneur, we go through our ups and our downs, and I've had all kinds of struggles in my life, and to just tell myself that in the end it's all going to work out fine. I wouldn't want anything to be different, because everything, and I say this to my wife, I have an amazing marriage and it's my second wife. Well, every single thing that happened in my life up to the moment I met my wife had to happen, or we never would have met.
Right.
And so it's not like I'd want to try to avoid the landmines. I stepped on the landmines along the way, and I had plenty of those. But just, that probably would have been a nice thing just to hear, hey, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
My life's a lot easier now than when I was younger. I really went through some struggles, as probably so many people do. But having settled that, I think that'd be my answer.
Yeah, I like that. I really do like that, because of the power of just accepting life. Every part of your journey, it will teach you and create something within you that prepares you for the next part of your journey. You just can't see it yet.
Yeah.
I can see the power in that, because I wouldn't change a thing. I've been through some things that I really wish I hadn't gone through those. Yeah. But now I look back and it's like, without those, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't even be on this show today.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Anything else you want to share today?
I just want to acknowledge all the listeners. If you're watching this right now, I want to acknowledge you for investing this time and allowing the three of us to pour into you. And I want to acknowledge both of you for all the great work you're doing. You're having an impact on the world. And because of what you're doing, you created this platform for me today. You have a platform for many people like me to step here and help us get our message out to the world. So thank you guys for how you're showing up, because you're helping me and helping so many entrepreneurs and people that you're wanting to give a platform to. And so I just really acknowledge both of you guys for how you show up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I received that. So Ryan and I worked a lot, like you say, in the unknown, in the darkness, stepping every day to create what we've got today. And it's been a journey. Ryan, did you have some other thoughts, man?
I'm just, I say this a lot, but there's a lot of gratitude for all of the things that you've done in your life, Eric, for us to meet right where we're at right here, right now, and for all that you're doing for yourself, for your family, for other people. It's well done, sir. Well done. So thank you for your time. Make sure you tell your family thank you for allowing us to borrow you for an hour and 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it is at this point.
You tell them to wait.
Yeah. we really do appreciate the time and value it, because that's the most valuable resource. So thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Well, for those that are watching, thanks for being a part of this. At the bottom of the screen, you see Eric's website. Make sure you go visit that. So there is a ton of good content right on there. Oh, we had fractals, Hugh. Quite a few fractals throughout. Hugh is one of our greatest fans, man. He's on, I think, every show. He puts he's given Steve Hardison some competition with that. So if you have a sales team or you're in sales and you really want to dive into building your business, reach out to Eric Lofholm. If you have a team that could benefit from him, do that. The information's right there on the bottom. As always, just keep stepping. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're right on time. You're not losing any time. You're doing the things you should be doing, and learn from the things that you're doing so that you can adjust and adapt and create it even better. And so we appreciate you being on the show. As always, tune in next week. We will catch you on the next episode. Thank you.
Love you too.